Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We went to movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained best pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the favorite bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey,
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Sent Us podcast, your favorite podcast where two sweetie sisters talk about movies that shaped their childhood. I'm Sweetie with an IE.
And I'm Sweetie with a Y.
Happy post-election day, everybody.
Woo! We did it.
We did it.
Came out on the other side.
Yeah, it came out on the other side of that.
So good.
We're recording this, and it has been a week since the election, but only a couple days since we found out the real winner of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So, wow!
Woo!
Yeah, as Sweetie said, we did it. Though obviously going to be a rough road ahead as the president, continues to deny the results of the election and claiming fraud, yada yada yada. Hopefully, we'll have it straightened out in a couple months.
Fucking better.
Yeah, totally. So. As I said in my Instagram story, we, were a little shooken up by the election, a little stressed out that we really couldn't record last week. Sweetie just, had a good point about not wanting to do a movie until we knew the outcome of the election, which I think was pretty smart.
Well, not just a movie, but a political comedy about a nice guy who becomes a great president, really.
Right.
And I was just thinking ahead, like, if that's not how things went, we would be super depressed, and then watching this movie would feel like some kind of evil punishment,
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, it just wouldn't have fit the mood. And so we probably would have to do something else. And while we were waiting to record this episode, I went back and listened to the episode recorded after the Hillary Clinton election. And we did Look Who's Talking, if everyone remembers, and we decided, everyone was obviously in such a dark place after that, and we decided that what's better than talking babies, so we did that, and go back and listen to that podcast. First of all, it's weird just to be like, oh shit, that was 4 years ago, and like we were in a really dark place, just to hear even just like the sadness in our voices, you can like really tell just in the intro. But then that podcast is hilarious and it's a great movie and we did a really good job. Want to say, go back, listen to that one if you haven't already. Anyway, so yes, this election, we are coming at it from a bit more optimistic, happy tone. And in that sense, we did Dave from 1993. Starring one of my favorite actors, Kevin Kline.
Not to be confused with Calvin
Kline.
Which I'm pretty sure I did when I was little, but
totally.
Anyways, yeah, great guy. He can really play. He can really play both sides of the coin. So to
Sweetie,
speak.
that's the first note that I have right here.
Wow.
Okay, first of all, my first note is: have we done any Kevin Kline movies yet? And I want to say no. We'd have to go back, but it's not jumping out at me. Like I want to do. I want to do a fish called Wanda someday, but we haven't done that yet. So we haven't done any Kevin Kline yet. And as Sweetie said, and like my notes read, plays a really likable guy in so many movies, right? But also does a really good bad guy.
Yep.
He's really got the range, but. I'll say this movie, so from 1993, came out, I was 10 years old, probably saw it a little bit later, really started my, love affair with Kevin Kline.
See, I told you.
I know, it's hard. Really started my love affair with Kevin Kline. And I just was so attached to him, even as like a little girl. Just love that actor.
Oh, wow. I mean, I knew you did, but I don't know if we've ever talked about it. Publicly or together. I don't know. I'm just taking a quick peek just to make sure we haven't covered anything that he was in, so that Michelle doesn't remind us. I don't see anything. So yeah, it would be A Fish Called Wanda, if anything.
Yeah.
Would be probably the only thing we would cover.
Yeah. So not only is Kevin Kline in this, but the cast of this movie is pretty much off the chain. A lot of good people in this film.
Oh yeah.
Who do we got?
Sigourney Weaver, who is awesome. I was just gonna say that. So okay, Sweetie has like a mini quiz for me later, and I was like, I think I know the answer. And then after I texted that, I was like, fuck, because I was basing it on certain characters in this movie being the same in another movie, and then I realized that I was not thinking of Sigourney Weaver. I was thinking of a different woman who had the same exact haircut as Sigourney Weaver, so I got confused. But anyways, Sigourney is fantastic, and she doesn't have a ton to do in this movie. She kind of just plays like an angry wife for the first half, and then is like a love-struck woman in the second part, which is weird. But she's great, and she has a great scene. The singing scene, gets me every time. Me too. And she's a lovely addition.
Yeah, she's great in this. Okay, who else? Frank Langella. Okay, that guy is always a dick.
Bad news.
He plays a bad. He's just. I mean, like we just said, Kevin Kline can really play both. I gotta say, like Frank Langella, evil dude in most things.
I was trying to think. I'm pretty sure wasn't he like a sweet old man in something?
I'm not. I mean, I don't know him in too many other things off the top of my head, but obviously he was in Frost Nixon as Nixon. And he was in something else or like a series or something. Anyway, this is one of those roles where like I cannot not see him maybe as evil because of this.
Yeah.
His role as Bob Alexander is this total manipulative, like crazy power hungry. Essentially, he's like a Dick Cheney in this movie, right? He's not vice president, but like, basically pulling the strings and has ambitions of his own. Ben Kingsley, our favorite, as the vice president, Vice President Nance has another accent I really cannot place. Don't know what he's doing with that.
I think it's just him. I think it's just Ben Kingsley's
Isn't he
accent.
British? He's originally
he's British and Indian.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I don't think that factors into the way he speaks. But I love his like natural eyeliner.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's Sir Ben Kingsley. I gotta say, a whole new appreciation this rewatch about the vice president.
Yes.
I was like, oh my god, is he in the Sweetie Club? I think so.
Yes.
Like what? All this time I just thought he was like this weirdo cracked out loser who like loved going to Africa or something on like trips, and now I get it.
I'm already going to ask a question, and maybe I should say this for later, but I'm going to answer it now. Ask it now because we're already talking about the vice president. What they call him a Boy Scout twice. What does that mean?
I figured it out. It's that if he knew they were doing something wrong, he would tell somebody because he wouldn't be able to like tell a lie.
Okay,
he's like an honorable Scout person.
Okay, got it.
I'm pretty sure. I don't think they meant he was like Teddy Roosevelt, like Boy Scout, like actual Boy Scout.
Yeah, they didn't mean it literally, that's for sure. But yeah, I didn't know like what is like if you're using basically Boy Scout as like a slur or like something negative, like what does that mean? I have no idea.
No, just a descriptor.
Ving Rhames as security guard Dwayne. Oh, I loved him in this. I was like obsessed with him when I was little. I thought he was like the funniest character. And the scene where they're talking about him like wearing a turtleneck just like makes me lose my mind. So funny. Kevin Dunn. So if you're not familiar with him, he has been kind of successful recently in Veep as sort of like the same character.
He's exactly the same character.
Yeah.
I was like,
but he's a lot more cynical. He's older and like, but I just love his character in this because he's obviously like the good guy as opposed to like the Bob Alexander chief of staff guy, like Alan is like the sweet, like nice one who really like does love Dave and like wants the best.
Foil.
Yeah. And obviously he doesn't like have any balls, which is like why he got into the position he is in, but he's still very sweet. Laura Linney, young Laura Linney.
I don't have a lot to say about Laura Linney. Sometimes I'm like, I know about Laura Linney, and then I'm like, do I though? She's another actress that just reminds me of Bonnie Hunt who's like also in this movie.
In this
so it's
movie,
super
yeah.
confusing.
Well, Laura Linney most recently. I mean, I've watched all of Ozark. Did you? You didn't watch Ozark, did you?
No, I don't.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
no.
she's huge in that,
Right,
and
right,
it's
right.
like really getting a lot of buzz, and she is excellent in that. But she plays the secretary that Bill Mitchell, the president, has an affair with when he has his heart attack, and she's a
What a
secretary.
psycho.
I know, crazy.
She seems like a loose cannon.
Oh yeah.
I would
Well, you know,
remove her
just-
from that position immediately.
I know.
Hello?
And it's like so cliche. Like, what are you doing? Don't
I know.
fucking have sex with the president. So this movie is directed by Ivan Reitman from, our Ghostbusters is the one that really stands out for us. But he had really like a string of hits in the 90s right around this time. So he did Stripes and Meatballs and Twins and then Ghostbusters. So that was like kind of the big one for us. Followed that up with Junior, Kindergarten Cop. Okay. Is Arnold Schwarzenegger
Okay.
his muse or what?
Obviously, he's his buddy because he was in this one as himself.
I know.
So
So crazy.
Oh my God. I was just thinking about. I always think about like every week, just randomly, I'll just think about the movie Junior. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just like sometimes I'm like, whoa, remember that?
That was a fucking crazy
and I
film.
like don't even. I saw it like one time, but like
I know.
it's still. I've been like, oh my God.
Yeah. And even
so
like,
we
I
gotta do
mean,
that.
he's got some like good plots of movies here. That's for sure. He also did 6 Days and 7 Nights. Love that one.
Yes, okay.
Miss
we
it.
saw that in the drive-in.
I
remember?
know. Love that movie. That was in the Anne Heche couple of years there. And then this movie's adorable, and it got 1 Oscar nomination for original screenplay, which you're like, okay, yes, this is an awesome story. And you're like, who is the screenplay writer? So here's your quiz,
Who is
sweetie.
it?
So
Oh, boy.
the screenplay writer is a man named Gary Ross. Okay.
Okay.
What other movie that is a favorite of ours has Gary Ross written for?
Okay, so I have. Okay, so let's do this. I have 2 guesses, and then if neither of those are right, give me a hint, and that'll be my third and final guess.
Okay.
So I have a couple strikes. Okay. All right. So the one that I was like, I know it. I figured it out. I'm a genius, and I was like super pumped about it. That one, and then I realized I think is not right, but whatever. I'll just say anyways. Was Sneakers.
No, but good guess.
Which, okay, because I saw Ben Kingsley and I was like, oh, and then I saw Sigourney Weaver's haircut and I was like, oh my God, even though she's not in Sneakers, but like that character reminds me so much of the woman Liz in Sneakers.
Okay, yep.
So I was like, oh my God. So that's why I thought that. Okay. So now my second guess is just a movie that I was like, okay, what movie would I freak out if I found out that somebody wrote it who also wrote a movie that Sweetie and I probably love or something? I don't know. So I don't know. Baby Boom?
No.
Okay. Damn it. All right. Give me a hint.
Memories like
Big?
the corn. Yes.
Okay. That was literally, it was going to be Baby Boom or Big, but I thought Big was too obvious. And then I was like, didn't Penny Marshall write Big or whatever? So,
Directed.
but now that I it's like heard you say that name and I think about it, I'm like, okay, I remember like seeing that on the screen, like
Yep.
Gary Ross. Okay,
Yeah.
it all makes sense now.
Yeah.
It all makes sense.
So another great like original screenplay.
Where's he? Can he write more things?
I
What's
know,
happening?
I know. So another one.
Is he dead?
I don't think he's not dead, but he did Pleasantville as well. That's the only other
I
one
just
that was
watched
like,
that.
yeah,
That's
so,
crazy.
So like, I mean, we've said this many times. Like, I feel like the original screenplay genre or category in the Oscars is like few and far between now because everything is an adaptation of a book or a remake, right? So, the original screenplay, I'm always like, that is awesome. And this guy has really written some really genius like original screenplays, like I would say. Though I think they did say that this plot is similar to one of like an older movie, I guess. So maybe he doesn't have like totally the all original
I got a little
stuff.
bit of A Tale of Two Cities vibes.
Oh, well, right. So that's Tale as Old as Time for sure. This sort of like people who look alike and switch. But this one's a little different because they're not switching lives. Like
Well,
Prince
there's
and the
even,
Pauper
like-
kind of a thing.
The last scene of him like walking into the shadows like with a duffel bag, I like pretty sure there's like an exact scene of that and it's at the end of Tale of Two Cities where like so he sees the other guy like leaving in the fields or something.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
To the
That's all I
far,
remember.
far better place that I go. Yeah, but okay, yeah, good stuff. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
but good stuff. That guy's pretty awesome. I guess he was like late turning in the script because he didn't like it, and he had to do like a whole rewrite of it, and he like remortgaged his house to be able to like afford to rewrite the whole script. I guess maybe because he was like out of work or something. Crazy. Anyway, turned in a brilliant script. Love it. Cracks me up. This rewatch of it. So I think I haven't seen this movie for a good, what do we say? Like 5 years, 6 years. Yeah. And it was one of those movie experiences where I was just like finishing the lines of the characters or saying them ahead of the character, which is like, you know, we've talked about many a times, which almost like a song that you haven't heard in so long, but you've seen it so many times that it's just like ingrained. And especially when you're watching it or you're listening to it, it just like comes back to you. Oh man, good experience for me. I love this movie. It's adorable. It's a great plot. It has, you know, I would say a pretty like sunny view of Washington, and even though there's a corruption side to it and like whatever, a definitely sunny side of the presidency, and definitely very like optimistic the way that like government works. I'll just say that budget scene, I don't think so.
Well, yeah. Or like, I mean, any of this, the way that government, even the guy being like having his own press conference and being like, this is the deal. Like that's not a thing that happens.
Right. It's totally far-fetched, and like obviously when you're talking about a plot that revolves around people looking exactly alike, that is like, you know, you have to suspend like some reality. But I did learn that both former presidents Bill Clinton and Barack Obama loved this movie. Oh my God. Bill Clinton had like a framed version of the script or something like in his office.
Isn't it kind of like, or weren't they kind of like making fun of him a little bit?
Maybe with like, his
name is William.
The affair and everything. Yeah, I think there's little
just
parts
like his general what he
of
looks
every,
like
of every presidency. Yeah,
age.
And then Barack Obama said that he would put this movie on whenever he was depressed because it made him like remember like all like the happy parts of being president, which is like totally. Makes me so
true.
I mean, like. Because, like I said, it's very sunny. I mean, he's like going to homeless shelters and rolling around on the lawn with his dogs.
And he's like picking up phones. He's like, "Give me an ice cream sundae," and then it's like, boom, boom, and he like gets all this cool shit.
And like in my mind, the last, you know, especially the tough time Barack Obama had, and obviously the last president that we just had was just a hot mess. And like I say all the time, like, fuck no, I would never want to be president. Seems like a miserable freaking job.
Pass. Hard pass.
And like, there's so many bad things about it. And I get like, I don't know whether it's like you want to do good, what you want to do well and make people, you know, help out millions of Americans or whatever, or you just are power hungry and have that like need that, you know, you want to fulfill. I just don't think it's worth it. Like, I just don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely not. No thanks.
Like, you have to have Secret Service for the rest of your freaking life because someone might try to blow your head off. Like, what? But
you can still throw out the first pitch at a baseball game and not be concerned about stuff. I mean, I guess it's a baseball game. There's security when people go in automatically. But, good points. Good points.
But yeah, so, and then our history of this movie is just, like I said, like, I don't remember exactly when we first saw it, but it probably was like mid-90s. I think we probably rented it. I feel like Dad rented it. I feel like it was Dad being
pretty
like,
sure
this looks good.
Or there's like a family discussion, like, okay, what movie are we gonna watch? And I was like, Babes in Toyland, and everyone else in the family picked Dave, and I was like, rah! And I like played with my Barbies while the family was watching it, and I understood like 30% of it because it was like I had my like adult. I was like, ooh, politics, this is for adults, and I like put on my earmuffs of like, I'm not gonna pay attention. But I remember asking you questions, and I remember asking you questions even when we watched it like 5 years ago.
Did I have answers when I was little?
Yeah.
I did?
No, just like asking like why. I remember like distinctly like I would be watching this and I'd only see like bits and pieces of it. So I remember he opens the door and Ben Kingsley's there and I'm like, who's that? I'm like, why does he have that spear? And I just remember like asking you things like that when I was little. Well, not little, but like, I don't know. I just didn't watch the whole thing until probably I was a little older.
Yeah. As you should, because this would be like, I was always kind of fascinated by politics, probably around by like the time of the Bill Clinton election. So I remember this very specifically, which would feel like they would not do now, but the Bill Clinton election where it was Ross Perot and Bill Clinton and was it George Bush? No. 92. How old would I have been? Yeah. No, it was the first election. So it was Bill Clinton, Ross Perot, and I guess George Bush was the incumbent. And we held elections in my 4th grade class. So, most kids just go home and like ask their parents and they vote for like who their parents are going to vote. But my friend Catherine Hurd was like obsessed with Ross Perot for some reason. And like she was kind of like the leader of our group. So she convinced like everybody to vote for Ross Perot. And so I go home and I talk to mom and dad and they're like, oh no, we're voting for Clinton. So at the last minute I switched my vote and voted for Clinton in this like school election. And it felt like so scandalous. I was like total last minute. I was like, Bill Clinton. Because I think I actually like went home and like asked mom and dad, like, what's the deal? But
wow.
Yeah, it was so funny. But now that
So
seems like they would never do that in school, like hold elections for kids to be like, I want this person to be president.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
weird.
know. Now that seems like,
I just don't really get the purpose of it. Yeah. Interesting. Good story.
but I was, since from that moment on, I feel like I was aware of politics, was kind of interested in it and sort of like loosely followed it, even as only like a 9-year-old or whatever, 10-year-old. So I've always loved politics. I've had, after the Hillary Clinton election, a bit of PTSD and just kind of dropped out of it for a while. And I actually didn't really follow too much of this election. I just couldn't do it. But maybe I'll get back into it now that it's a little bit, hopefully a better place. Some warmer waters. Okay. So you ready to get up into this insane, far-fetched plot?
Yeah, of course.
All right. It's time for the sweetie synopsis. Yeah.
Sweeties.
I didn't even plan a quote. I'm appalled at myself.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Go. I would have done that.
God bless America.
Dave Kovic is has a pretty exciting part-time job, I guess, of being a president impersonator. He happens to look exactly like the president, Bill Mitchell, and he also owns a little temp agency, little hole-in-the-wall thing. Real sweet, real like go-getter. If someone like is let go from a job, he like actually goes and fights for them. Is he best friends with the guy? Yes, but whatever. Like he's still a nice, good person. So
I love that when he goes and gets this woman comes in and is like, Mr. Kovic, like I learned on IBM and then they give me like a totally different computer. Like I can't work. And she's like freaking out. So he calls his friend Murray, who owns a accounting agency. He's like a CPA, and then goes and takes this woman there to help her get a job. And like the whole room is like completely filled with temps. Like this guy clearly like helps him out on like everything. And he's like, Dave, I can't hire another person. Like I have so many temps to begin with. And you just see this like pool of ladies. And he's like, well, her husband's a diabetic. And he's like, diabetic? And she's like, diabetico. I don't know why that part cracked me up. Anyway,
pretty good. It's pretty
tangent.
Pretty good. So Dave, meanwhile, the actual president, Bill Mitchell, is doing a speech or whatever, blah, 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 boring president stuff. He seems kind of like a cold, like, I don't know. He seems a little heartless to me, but, it's the beginning of the movie. Who knows? So come to find out that the president needs a new lookalike. So I don't know how they like found out that this was happening or that they knew about this, but the Secret Service guys just like show up at the car dealership where Dave is doing his stint as the president, as like an impersonator of the president. And they're like, oh my God, he looks exactly like him, which like, yeah, he does. And this is one of those movies that I would like to call as like a subgenre of like inexplicable twins, which is like, in The Parent Trap, yes, they're twins. They look exactly like because they're fucking twins. And then there's all these other movies where it's just like you're supposed to believe that these people look exactly alike and are not related whatsoever.
And live in the same city.
And live in the same city and don't realize that they look exactly like each other.
I mean, they do say that like everyone has, because of the way like genes can be like, I don't know, like structured, like there's only so many combinations and you have a lookalike. I've read that.
Until I find that person, like maybe, but like still, what are the odds that they would be in the same place? And So whatever. I think those movies are funny though. The one that comes to mind is like Model Behavior, which is like she's this. It looks exactly like this beautiful model, and it's like, come on, okay, yeah, sure.
Well, at least in this one, it has to be because he's like a famous person, right? So at least he like knows he looks like him. You know, it's like that's part of the his shtick. Is that he looks so much
it
like
usually
him.
is because usually in these movies there's some sort of deception and like switching involved where you're like, oh, let's trade places, no one will know. So they find him and they're like, wow, we hit the jackpot. So they use him as like a plant basically, and the way that they explain it to him is like sometimes the president, we don't want to put him in dangerous situations, so we have this like total stranger who has no relationship to politics whatsoever come and risk their life for him, basically, is what they're telling him. And he's like, okay, yeah, sure. And he's like, this is great. And at first I was like, oh my God, that is bullshit. I was like, that is the worst president ever, who would be like, yeah, I would love a like person that I'm supposed to be governing like die for me for no reason. So, like, instead of me, like, I'm risking my life to be out there fighting for you. Like, I'm not going to send people in my way to get shot at instead. And then I remembered that the real reason that they have this plan is that sometimes the president likes to have a little sneaky peeky affair-y at like whatever this hotel is that they're giving this speech or whatever. Yeah. And this is how he gives off and like he fucking avoids his responsibilities as a husband and president.
Right. Because their little thing about like, oh, we can't put him in harm's way doesn't make sense in the way that, say, that body double did get shot. What are they going to tell everybody? Oh, don't worry, everybody. That was like the president's double. He's dead, but the president's okay.
Right. We
like
wouldn't know.
That would be really, really weird. Like you just couldn't. I don't know how you would like work your way around it. But I agree. I think it's more that like he didn't want to do. You know, he had to be somewhere else. So they need him to do.
They were just saying that to get him to do it. They weren't. They weren't going to be like, well, the president needs to have an affair, and we need to make the public believe that he's not having an affair.
Right.
And it's just weird. Like, what's his plan to like stay the weekend with this woman, and that like Dave would be there for like however long? It
was just to have like sex that one time, and then like he goes on his way.
Well, they just needed to see the public seeing him leave.
Yes.
So, and then he was just supposed to like, that was it, and then they were done. So the president goes off and has sex with the Laura Linney character, and whilst in the throngs of passion, the president starts having some kind of pain or something, or maybe not. I don't know. He has a stroke, so he just like passes out.
Well, and the way they do it, like they're having sex, so they're making like sex noises. But unfortunately, sex noises can be confused with "I'm having a heart attack" noise, and he collapses on her.
Right.
Didn't orgasm. Actually, had a heart attack and passed out.
Right. Happens. It's a common.
It is.
Thing. You
it really is.
Forget. Guys, take care of yourselves.
Time out, sweetie trivia, sweetie history lesson. Yeah. So, doing some reading, I guess this did actually happen to former Vice President Nelson Rockefeller in 1979. Died in the throes of passion while boinking his secretary.
Oh no!
Yeah, I guess he wasn't vice president anymore, but yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like, it didn't really come out until later. Like they originally reported that he died, like had a heart attack at his desk and died. But then it like all came out that he was like with this lady and his secretary, and she called, and it was just like, ooh, not great.
Yikes. Yeah. Bad news, Grizz. So they rush him to the like secret White House doctor or whatever. And he's essentially pretty much saying that like he's going to be a vegetable, so probably not going to recover. The chief of staff, Bob Alexander, he is I don't know, some kind of sociopath or something, and like he is like, okay, we can't tell anyone that the president is dying because I'm the president. Like he thinks that like he's the the actual actions behind the president, which is often the case, I guess, in a lot of things in presidencies. But I know
I didn't get that feeling with the Bob Mitchell character. Like he didn't seem like
Bill Mitchell.
Bill Mitchell. Yeah. I mean, he didn't seem like a total puppet to like that whole thing, but I don't know.
But maybe the like actual political, maybe he just cared about like getting laid at that point or something. You know, who knows? So
Playboy
he didn't
president.
want to lose his influence and power, so he doesn't want to call the vice president or let anyone know that the president is passed because he wants to retain his weird like puppet master power.
Right, and his long-term plan is that he is going to discredit the vice president, and then they'll actually kind of replay the whole heart attack coma thing. The chief of staff will become the vice president, I guess.
Yeah, like how does
it was
that
this
work?
whole convoluted
It's
thing
like,
that he eventually was going to become president because Bill Mitchell, the fake Bill Mitchell, was going to appoint him as vice president, and then they'd kill off the Bill Mitchell, and then he would become
isn't this
president.
like the plot
Yeah.
of House of Cards? Like,
Yeah. Oh,
it's just
totally.
like,
Totally.
I mean, the American people. I mean, we would revolt. I'm pretty sure if the president was just like, and now this person's president, and it's like, wait, we did not.
Yeah,
not
it
vote
was
for this.
It was really bad. He's a psycho. I agree.
Yeah, he's a psycho. So they get Dave back in there, and they're like, listen, we need you to be the president for a little while longer. And they tell him that like the president had a terrible accident, and he has to cover and like pretend to be the president. So Dave's kind of freaking out, but at the same time, he's like pretty excited because he really enjoyed playing the president for like a brief amount of time. He literally just had to like walk down a row of a huge hall of people and not say anything. But he was just like so overcome with people just being like, Mr. President, Mr. President. And then he's just like can't handle it anymore. And he just like loses it. And he's like, God bless America. And he's like so excited. So it's so funny because when they bring him in at first, they're like, we need to talk to you about something. He's like, I'm so sorry. He's like, I couldn't control myself. And he like thought it was about that, but it's like, nah, like you need to be the president. So, and he basically are going to keep up this ruse for, how long did they think they could get everything? Like they could get the vice president discredited and then this guy appointed to president, like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah,
something ridiculous.
I don't know what the timeline of this film is. It's kind of confusing. I mean, they only kind of tell you at the end what period of time has gone by, but yeah, I would say like a month or because so what they have to do because, you know, only so many people need to know basis of what's going on here, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're going to trick everybody into thinking that this is the real president and then he's recovered. So they've like paid off the doctors and nurses who are like taking care of the real Bill Mitchell in the basement. I don't think they pay off the Secret Service guys. They're just like so serious about their job. They're like, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then they send that vice president on like a 12 country like grand tour. So like he's out of the way too. Right. Yeah. So then that opens them up to just, everyone's just going to believe that Bill Mitchell has had this amazing recovery and he's just as good as new. Right.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Yeah.
So that goes according to plan for like a little while. And then it's like pretty obvious, like pretty quickly, that Dave is like just a much better president than Bill Mitchell was, just from like a character point of view. Like he's nice, he like cares about things, he smiles. He's just like, people immediately notice this like change in the president. And a lot of the news is like, oh, he's, you know, he had like a brush with death, so now he's come back like a new man. Is kind of how they're reading it. And so eventually he meets the first lady who hates him a lot because, you know, she thinks he's the president, and they just have a terrible relationship. It seems they sleep in separate rooms. She rarely sees him. They only like walk together for like press things. And it seems just really miserable. So he's sad about that because he's a nice person. He doesn't want anyone to hate him. But he also doesn't know about all this like behind the scenes, you know, this is all news to him.
Right.
So, at the same time, so I find it highly unbelievable and awful that they would not tell the first lady that she was, even if she didn't see him, like that's his fucking wife. Like tell her that this happened. Like, come on. But so she's kind of suspicious because she's like, why is he being so nice? Like he's never nice. They go to this homeless shelter. And they have like a great time, and he's like reading the kids. It's like super sweet. It is a magic trick. And then fucking psychopath Bob, whatever, Alexander, like removes the funding for that homeless shelter in a bill or a veto or something. And so she's like, what? I can't believe you. Like, I can't believe you would do that. We would go to that shelter and then do that. And he's like, what are you talking about? So he finds out what Bob did, and he's like, that is not okay, man. And Bob's like, well, you find the $650 million to pay for that, and we won't have to cut it. And he's like, fine, I will. So who does he call but his little buddy from the accountant, whatever. What's
Murray.
his name? Murray. Wait, his
Murray
first
Bloom.
name's Murray?
Yeah.
Murray Bloom. Who's like the sweet guy who I always feel like is like a bizarro Robert Redford, which is like another sneakers connection that like tricked my head into thinking
Interesting.
that. So
No, that's Charles Grodin of Beethoven fame, the dad in Beethoven.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. Totally. That's funny. It's another movie I've seen maybe one time. So they come and they look at the budget and they find a way to like get the money back. So Dave decides he's just going to call like a whatever meeting this is, and he's
Cabinet.
like, actually, let's talk about the budget. And then he rolls out how he's going to save $650 million. So he cuts like all these stupid contractors that they don't need and all these other stupid things that his buddy told him to get rid of. And everybody's like, wow, yeah, great, okay, yeah. And meanwhile, Bob is like stewing in the corner, like, you can't do this, but like trying to undermine the president in front of like all the other cabinet members, which is like a stupid fucking move.
Yeah, because this is the problem when you don't tell everyone, like, okay,
right,
you're doing this elaborate ruse that like you got to play the game too. Like you created the game, like you got to play it the same way.
If anyone found out that they were doing this, they would be put into prison for a very long time.
And they just thought Dave was like this nice, well-mannered, like kind of dopey guy, and really misjudged him and misjudged how much he cared about, anything that he does, basically. Anything that guy does, he has such a heart that like he's going to put all of his effort into it. So really they picked the wrong guy.
To be like Dave.
Yeah, they wanted a patsy, and they picked the wrong guy because he's like so involved. So they keep this bill, and then Dave just keeps being like more involved in the presidency, much to the chagrin of Bob Alexander. He's calling meetings, he's calling a press conference, all these things. Though I did skip ahead a little bit because the first lady comes to him and is like, wow, like so great what you did there. Can't believe you saved the homeless shelter. Really reminds me of that time, the time in the Virginia Senate or something like that, or the House or something like that. And he's like, yeah, that reminds me of that too. And she's like, you were never in like the Virginia Senate. So
Gotcha.
Busted. So she knows what's up. And
Thank
like,
God.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
It took her a really long time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, kind of like, I don't care if you haven't laid eyes on, if you haven't like slept in the same bed as one another in 10 years, your fucking husband from a guy who runs a temp agency. Like, it's, come on.
Oh, definitely. And how she finds out is like the saddest thing ever, because they're like driving in the car to go to that homeless shelter, and her skirt like goes above her knee, and she like looks at her legs, and she says, that's when I knew you weren't my husband, because he stopped looking a long time ago. Oh, really, really sad.
Well, that's the first like inkling. And then he did this nice thing of like getting the funding back, which the real Bill would never do in 1,000 years. And she knows that. Yeah. So it was just like a suspicion that she confirms. So she even saw him naked, and she like didn't. So they have the exact same size penis. You're telling me, like, what if he was uncircumcised and Bill was circumcised? Like, I just feel like there could have been a better way. I feel like, and in my head, I was like, she finds out when she sees him naked in the shower. Like when I was watching it this time, I was like, oh, this is when it happens.
Yeah,
totally forgot.
That's what they want to make you want to think. Yeah.
I know, but whatever. So now she knows. They show him her real husband in the basement, which is like, do they really have that like sketchy basement like Area 51 in the White House?
So terrible.
So yeah, she's like, oh, this is wild. And then she's like, well, I gotta go home. So he helps her leave. I don't know why he has to be the one to like take her home or whatever, but they escape out this like secret side door that LBJ used to use, and it just like opens up into like a random park like near the White House, which is like, okay, what? Like, can you imagine? Obviously, if I lived in Washington D.C., I would just be like looking for doors that have code things in them and be like, this is it.
Okay,
this is the
I've
secret
seen
tunnel.
that in a couple different White House president like kind of movies. So I don't know if that's just something that movies do or if that's like a real thing. Didn't do research on it. But if you've ever, I'm going to go over the different like presidential movies that are out there that I like. But if you've ever seen Murder at 1600 with Wesley Snipes and Diane Lane, where they're Secret Service people, that's an excellent one. And there's some like sneakage out of the White House that way.
Cool. Yeah. Love it. Love a secret tunnel. So he takes her in like Dwayne, the Secret Service guy, leaves like a car for them, and then Dave drives her. Which again, like, hello guys, think this through. Like, if something were to happen, they got an accident, they got pulled over, like it would be bad. Like he's in a random car, and he's P.S. the president and the first lady. I don't know why the Secret Service guy was like, yeah, go for it. Here's the keys, son. Have a good time. Like, it's so weird. So, luck would have it, they do get pulled over. And the way that they avoid being like found out about this, since they don't have car registration, is he uses like a little nugget of the truth. So he's like, oh, we're just impersonators. And then he spins this yarn about how they just came from this like wedding and they did their famous
the
like
Saperstein wedding.
Yeah. And then it's
about
like
Dave, he's like so good at just like like, and this is sort of a Kevin Kline thing, just like kind of like verbal diarrhea. I feel like that's just like what he does so well. Oh, we're coming from the Saperstein wedding. We do this bit where the president and the first lady are at Club Med.
Yeah. And it's like, and then they end it with like a Tomorrow duet from Annie. And so he starts singing it, and like he loves, Dave's always singing, and he does all these, my favorite scene is like the very beginning when he's like singing Oklahoma and then like turns around and sees them in his house, and it's so good. Like he's being so extra, and I love it. So they like put that up a lot, that like, oh, he's like this big guy, he loves belting out a Broadway tuner too. So
Man
he's
after my
great,
own heart.
and he's great, and is just
And
like
Annie no less.
singing Tomorrow. And then the first lady joins in at the very end, and she's like singing very high.
Do you think Sigourney Weaver really has that terrible of a voice?
No,
I bet she has
a good voice, because they wanted the joke to be the punchline at the end or whatever. So yeah, she's like like it's like pretty bad, and then the policeman decides to not give them a ticket because don't quit your day job or whatever, don't like do this full time, and then he whispers to Dave like, you're very good, but she needs some work.
I love that. She needs a lot of work.
He's like, thanks. She's pretty new at it.
So good.
So they get out of it, and like it kind of really turns the first lady. Oh my God, what is her name even? Why can't I?
Ellen. Thank you for doing
really
this, Ellen.
Around on Dave, and she really starts like looking at him in a new light. And she likes his what he did with the budget, and she's like, what would you do like if you were still president? Like, what are some of the things you would want to accomplish? And so she decides to keep pretending to be the first lady in the hopes that Dave will like do a lot of good as the president. So she like puts on the act, and they, things are good. He starts this new initiative, I guess, to like give every American a job, which is like very close to his passion, because he obviously works at that temp agency, and that's an issue very close to him. And Bob Alexander is just getting like more and more pissed. Dave actually ends up firing him because he's actually technically the president, even though he's not. But you know what I mean? Like he has that power, sort of. So he fires Bob, and then Bob goes on like an upset rampage and like decides to leak to the press that like the president was responsible for this, I don't know, political terms, yada yada. I don't know the thing.
They purposely make it very fuzzy so they don't have to explain any of it, because it just would have taken up too much of the movie to be explained like what actually they did wrong. Sounds like it was around campaign finance, something to do with how they use like the Liberty Savings and Loan. They use like a bank name or like a business name, and it had something to do, I want to say, with like some kind of maybe like illegal money he got for his campaign, because there's like various rules around what money and who you can take money from for your like presidential campaign. So I don't know. Sure. Sounded like it was something with that, but apparently totally illegal, cover-ups, all that jazz. Yeah.
So they're like, fuck, all right, now what are we gonna do? So he was also, they had implicated the vice president as previously in the plan. But then the vice president returns, and Dave talks to him and realizes he's actually like a really nice guy. And obviously Bob was a psychopath and just wanted to discredit him for no reason. And he's like, this guy should really probably be president. Like, okay. So then he decides, well, I can't, now that this has been leaked, like, I can't go on, like, I can't go in hiding or whatever. So they're going to do the switchback, let's just say. So he goes to this committee hearing to talk about, like, what happens, and he ends up being like, it's true, all of it. He's like, except for the fact that the vice president was involved. He's a great man.
It was a joint session of Congress.
Okay, sorry. So he says that, so then it gets the public back, like, okay, the vice president, he cool. So then he pretends to have a heart attack or a stroke or whatever and collapses, and then they switch him with the president's body, and then Dave and Dwayne are just like sitting in the ambulance, and then Dave just like leaves out the back, basically, into the night, back to his old life. So that's done, and no harm done. It's like another one of those things that's like, oh, no consequences. Yeah. You just like got to live this great life, and none of it ever really happened. It was just like you were in this like dream world for like 2 weeks or whatever. So the next, I don't know, sometime after that, things are hopping at the old temp agency, which has now doubled as headquarters.
Wait, so the vice president has become president.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yep,
Bill
he's been
Mitchell, the
sworn
real
in.
Bill Mitchell, was in a coma for 5 months. That sucker held on
wow.
for 5 months.
Wow.
I know. And then because of the 25th Amendment, when the president's incapacitated, they sign, the next person in line gets to take over. That was Vice President Nance. And then Bill Mitchell officially dies. Nance takes over. And then, they bury him. And then that's the whole thing is kind of ends then, right? Because he finally died.
Yep. So that's that. And then, Dave decides to run for like some town
councilman city
or something.
councilman.
So his temp agency is like headquarters for that. And who should stroll in but the first lady herself, Ellen Mitchell. And she decided she wants to have a relationship with this guy who looks exactly like her husband, who is now dead. And that's fine. Like, they had a great relationship, but like, I mean, that's pretty nutty, huh? Like, to be like, oh, like, what is your family gonna think? And like, maybe you don't even have to tell them, because you're like, oh, see, grandma, it's just him, it's just Bill. Like, it's so weird, but like, hey, great, good for you. It seems like a deal, bonus.
Yeah.
Nothing changes, and my husband's magically a good person. It's like, great.
Right. And she knew she'd be attracted to him because she was once attracted to that guy before. I mean, it's kind of like like cloning your husband and changing his personality
into a better person.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a win-win situation.
Win.
Good for you, Ellen. So they make out and they're together, and then you see Dwayne is like the security of Dave, which is like so sweet because they're like little besties by the end. Yeah. And then that's it, and then that's a sweet little movie. But it's like so clever. A lot of layers to this. The whole time I was in my head like, oh my God, it's like he's really a temp of his agency.
Oh my God, that's blowing my mind right now.
Because he was filling in for the president. Well, Ellen says that like kind of at the end, like sort of, and I was like, damn it, I was like, she's got my line. But it works on many levels. It's very clever. It's just a fun like low stakes movie. It's not like, oh, there's a terrorist crisis and now Dave has to handle it. It's like, oh, figure out how to save this homeless shelter. Okay. And it's like, it seems like low stakes.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely feels like, President, Bill Clinton era, like sort of like in the 90s, which was a pretty like copacetic time. Stuff was going pretty well. And they do, like I said, it's a really sunny side of the president. He doesn't really have to deal with anything like too serious, which is good for him because he didn't really have any experience with that. Do you think he ran into problems when he ran for city councilman that people are like, wow, like you look like the dead president? I mean, do you think that would work for or against him?
Yeah. Oh, I think it would have worked for him, probably. Although at that time his image was kind of smeared, so maybe not.
Yeah.
But I would think maybe that's, if any like average Joe was like, who should I vote for? Oh, wow, this guy looks like the president. I pick him, It probably worked in his favor. I don't know. I'm sure he wins. I'm sure he wins the election. He's great.
Yeah, definitely.
So maybe he'll someday be the president. Who knows?
Yeah,
Who
right.
knows?
That's his long-term goal. So I like how they don't in this movie say, and it's very much on purpose, whether the Bill Mitchell is a Republican or a Democrat. They really leave that open. I'm leaning Republican. He seems like one to me, but they don't say it, so they leave it open, so they're not saying
Did you notice they were like he was the 45th? The vice president was the 45th president of the United States, which is what Donald Trump was.
Yeah, they messed the order. I don't know what they're saying about that timeline, but yeah, that was kind of weird. They didn't have the numbers but you don't know when does this take place? Yes, it takes place in the 90s, but is this supposed to be someone who is after the current president? Are we saying what world does this exist in, kind of a thing? Because they use real people. See, that's the weird thing, because they use real people in it. They use actual senators and representatives and stuff. So it's
and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Hello.
Yeah, exactly. So it takes place in the real world, but not. But anyway, I always felt like Bill Mitchell was a Republican just from his demeanor, which I don't know what that says about the Republican Party, but
it's a weird parallel dimension, or what's that called? Parallel timeline? No. What's it? Is that the Back to the Future? Alternate timeline.
Alternate reality.
That I always think about in these situations where it's supposed to take everything else is normal except for the fact that this person is acting in this movie. Mm-hmm. So I'm always in my head, I'm oh my God, in this universe, do any of Kevin Kline's movies exist? So then you're so then you think about all the the references that could have happened. I know Sophie's Choice was a book before it was a movie, but
right.
If people say oh, that's a Sophie's Choice, it's oh my God, does that not exist because he wasn't in it?
Yeah.
And it's that's the kind of stuff my head thinks about. But you're right. Yeah, it's weird.
Totally.
So yeah.
So I just want to talk about Kevin Kline a little more because, like I said, I just love him so much. I really think in this movie he does such a good job of. They really do seem even though they're both played by him, he does such a good job of making Bill Mitchell and when they put Dave next to him, how different they really were. Even though, and it's this really cool scene where he's going to impersonate the president. They take him to the president's barber, who's wow, you look just like him. Even the hair coloring is exactly the same. And the real Dave, his hair is a little bit more mussed up. And obviously his style's a little different. He smiles a lot and he doesn't wear glasses. Those are kind of the big things, right? But when they put him right in front of the president and the president looks at him and then walks all the way around him and they're standing right. The way Kevin Kline acts, it really seems like two different people. It's the same actor, but it's totally different. And I just think that just goes to the talent of that guy.
Yeah.
And he's just so funny. And like you said, I love his random singing. And he kind of does that in a lot of his roles. Speaking to Fish Called Wanda really stands out as one that's kind of similar to this one. But and that role's funny because he plays Otto and he's likable, but he's also basically the bad guy in that. And it's really conflicting, and I think which happens a lot with Kevin Kline movies.
Just funny. I don't think he's likable. I think he's just so hilariously a dummy that you're it's just hilarious. But yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah.
And who's he married to? I'm always
Phoebe
shocked
Cates.
that he's married to Phoebe Cates. Okay,
Yeah.
right. Because we always talk about we've talked about that in our Phoebe Cates movies.
So I saw something recently. They play on PBS. They play Broadway shows sometimes, taped Broadway shows, and one was this crazy British play that he was in, and it was so funny. What is the woman from the Kobe Schmolders or whatever her name is?
From How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah, so she was in it. This other famous woman, and it was this Broadway show, and it was so funny. They were these British people, and it was just this total nutty stage play. And I was holy shit, Kevin Kline, miss that bitch. I don't know if he's done movie lately. Haven't seen him around. Maybe he's doing Broadway shows. Yeah. But
not anymore, but yeah.
Yeah, he's excellent.
Yeah, totally. Totes. So the things I remember most from this movie are really the White House lore. So I remember thinking it was so I really thought they filmed this in the White House when I was little, probably.
Yeah, and they can't all stage sets.
Right. So I was like, oh my God, it's like, this is what the president's bedroom looked like cool. But like also kind of just looks like the hotel room in Home Alone, like in Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Like it just like, like it just looks like a nice hotel room.
Right. But do you think, and I was trying to, I haven't really seen too many pictures of what the inside of the White House looks like now under President Trump, because I think they can all add kind of like their own style. But like, I feel like the lore side of it is like this old Americana, like furniture, you know, those fancy chairs with like the wood, but like the colored padded seat, and those like love seats. And like, is it all like that still? I don't know. I mean, more modern?
Jackie redid everything when she took it over.
Yeah.
So then we have to look up the history of like what. But I mean, isn't there only like one room that the first lady can redecorate, and then like the president gets to pick whatever he wants his Oval Office to look like, so that he often gets like a designer to come and like do it for them.
They put like their own statues and like whatever in there. Yeah. I guess that Oval Office set is like is one that they use on a lot of different movies though. So that's kind of one.
Very convincing.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing was, I mean, I had to really remind myself like, whoa, wait, this isn't the White House? Like, even when they like drove up into the White House, how did they film that?
How'd they do that?
Yeah. I don't know.
Backdrop? I don't know.
But
I loved that. I loved the like secret tunnel when I was little. I thought that was so cool. And it just like, it did sensationalize like the president, right? Like it just like seemed like such a cool thing. Like, whoa, it'd be so cool to be the president. Like when you're little, you're like, I want to be the president. Yeah. I don't know if it's like from movies like this, or it's because you have that like just innate, a lot of kids have that just like innate wonder to be the boss of the, of the country. I don't know. Like it's probably a combination of that, but that's what I remembered most from this movie. And the sex scene in the beginning is also probably burned into my brain, because I think we started watching this as a family, and then like that happened, and I remember being like really embarrassed. So I was like, well, I'm going to play with my Barbies over here, I guess. And then I would like be in and out from the movie. So those are my main my main memories, I guess.
Yeah, I would say that too. Mostly the fun side. The fact that you can be like, hey, kitchen, like, can I have like this, and this? Or like go down and make a sandwich. And it seemed to me that they would have like every food in the world. You're like, okay, the president has access to like any food you want. Like they will make it for you. And I don't like totally think that's how it works, but I feel like in every presidential movie that is how it works.
Right. Yeah.
Which is like, I mean, who knows? It might be. I mean, I'm sure like President Trump is eating like McDonald's every day, and you just like got that brought in. Yeah. But yeah, I loved all the scenes with like Dwayne. I thought those were so funny. Like he's going through the photo album and he's like, you know, oh, here's me on the cover of Time magazine. I need a shave. And like, oh, here's you, Dwayne. And he's like, you know, cause like, he's like a little buddy. Like, Dave is just so, and like, they just don't, you know, you're not probably supposed to have that relationship with your Secret Service, cause it is supposed to be sort of a business thing and it really can't get like too personal. But this got me like when I was a little kid, like he starts talking to him about, well, is it really like they're eating sandwiches in the kitchen? And he's like, would you really take a bullet for the president? They always say that, like, and Dave doesn't believe him because it just seems like, wow, like you give your life for someone maybe you don't even like really like, but it's just your job, which is always such a crazy thing with that office, right? You're like, dang, like that's nuts.
Or with like, I mean, like any security person.
Yeah.
It's like kind of, I mean, hello, the bodyguard, hello.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I mean, that's...
Your job is to protect somebody. You protect that person.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you could pay me enough to do that. No offense to that job, but wow. So anyway, Dwayne is very like stoic and straight faced. That's just his job. He's a tough guy. That's his persona. And so when they're saying goodbye at the end, Dave has to go back to his life. Dwayne goes like, I'd take a bullet for you, Dave. And that was, I remember as a little kid, I was like, oh my God, like freaking out. Is that like emotional moment? It was just so sweet. Didn't hit as hard this time, I'll tell you. Seemed a little bit cheesy, but I do like that
very
moment.
Like, this is the classic, like, black dude has to be around to tell the white dude, like, to do the right thing, you know, like, and then the white guy gets all the, you know, the congratulations and the achievement and the well done, and it's just like, it's just such a trope. It's weird.
What was he? How was he telling him to do the right thing though?
No, just like just the voice of reason, like the guy that like the audience always loves, like the sidekick, he says funny things. Like he plays the same character in Mission Impossible.
Oh,
really,
definitely.
like any Ving Rhames movie.
Yeah.
He kind of plays this character where he's just like the sidekick to some white person, and so that's just kind of what I was thinking. But it is I do like that moment at the end. I think is sweet, and I'm glad that they continue to be buddies. In a security person, politician way.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Okay, so talking about some other presidential movies that just came to mind, because it's certainly a genre of film. And there's been a bunch, but the ones I remember are The American President with Michael Douglas and Annette Bening. I believe that's an Aaron Sorkin written film. Seen that like once. I feel like Mom really liked that one. He's like a widow and she's like a reporter. Remember?
Isn't the cover
and
like very similar to the Dave one?
Well, they're like, they're like
dancing,
you know, and it's like the top half of them. They're like dancing at some ball. That one's kind of cute though. I think it's called The American President because he was like widowed and he like meets this woman and then they have to kind of like hide their relationship. Just supposed to be showing that like he was like a real person, you know, in this noble office, but like he's got problems like everybody else. My Fellow Americans, one of my favorites, with James Gardner and Jack Lemmon as these two ex-presidents who like almost get killed in this helicopter crash, and it's like an assassination attempt, and they then uncover like all this corruption in the current government. It's hilarious.
Assassinate former presidents. What's the
because they knew about like the stuff that was happening with the current president or something. I don't know. Got to rewatch that. Maybe we'll do it for the podcast. It is hilarious. The dynamic between those guys is so funny, and connected to this movie because in this one, Dave is in the shower and he makes up his own words to the hail to the chief, and his are pretty good. I can't like totally remember it, but in My Fellow Americans, they both admit that they made up their own words to hail to the chief, and Jack Lemmon's versions was hail to the chief, he's the chief and he needs hailing. So bad.
Yeah, that's your favorite.
God, I love that movie. It was just cracked me up. All the President's Men, the old one with Robert Redford, Dustin Hoffman, about the Bernstein, Woodward and Bernstein digging up the Watergate scandal, right? That's a good old one. It's like kind of slow. I watched that recently.
Over my head, yeah.
Yeah,
I fell asleep.
I mean, that whole thing really still confuses me, the whole Watergate scandal and what was going on, but Deep Throat, that whole thing. Cool. In the Line of Fire. Okay, do you remember this one? This is about Secret Service, but it's Clint Eastwood as a Secret Service guy. And John Malkovich is this guy trying to assassinate the president. And he basically like sends all this stuff to Clint Eastwood. And Clint Eastwood like was on the Secret Service when JFK was assassinated. So he like blames himself for like JFK being assassinated. And at the end, like John Malkovich almost does assassinate the president because he makes a wooden gun that can go like through the metal detectors. Crazy.
Wow. I think I remember somebody posting a screenshot of that. I didn't see it, but yeah.
Here's one you might have seen, Chasing Liberty.
No, haven't seen it, but I remember you saw it and you're like, this movie's great.
Yeah, it was cute.
Isn't it like Katie Holmes or something?
No, I think it's Mandy. Isn't it Mandy Moore is the president's daughter? There is a Katie Holmes one that she is something. Yeah, look that up.
Chasing Liberty is with Mandy Moore.
Yeah. There is a Katie Holmes one. I can't remember that one. But Mars Attacks. I know you like that one.
Oh my God, I love Mars Attacks.
That's more like a parody. Well, it's like a parody, like sci-fi movie. But there's like president is Jack Nicholson in that one.
Okay, the Katie Holmes one is First Daughter.
First Daughter. Okay, yeah. And then
Jack Nicholson is in Mars Attacks. Yes.
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. So that's not about the president, but more about like
you're just in politics.
Represent.
You're off on
now I'm just doing politics. Thread. But that is like an excellent movie if you have not seen it. Oh my God, Jimmy Stewart. Whoa. It gets so intense at the end. Really good. He filibusters at the end and has to talk like nonstop for like a certain amount of time, and he like passes out. Oh God, so good. And then the one I mentioned, Murder at 1600, with Wesley Snipes and Diane Lane as Secret Service people. There's a murder in the White House. Someone, like a woman, is found like dead in the bathroom, and they have to investigate it, and ends up being this like whole scandal uncovered. It's good. It's good. I recommend that one.
Wow.
So that's like definitely a genre. Just like people imagining, it's such a weird thing, the president, in a lot of ways. We have a really different one compared to a lot of countries, and it's one that's like that films love to examine, I feel like, and see like what they can do with that. Mm-hmm. And I think mostly they're pretty entertaining. I do enjoy them.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
What were your Sweetie history lessons?
Oh, so my last Sweetie history lesson is one of my favorite bits of history. So, people would ask, has this ever happened in the history of America where you had a president incapacitated and someone took over in his place? Now, that's incorrect, right? Because right now we have the 25th Amendment, which means, the 25th Amendment means that like when a president is incapacitated, like someone else can take over. So they're not dead, but like it can be, a coma is an extreme situation, right? Because obviously they can't do anything. But say like someone is very ill, they think someone is psychiatrically like not okay, that kind of stuff. So that's been thrown around with Trump. Is he unfit to lead, an unsound mind? You could throw out the 25th Amendment and then, Pence would take over. So that's how it works now. But when Woodrow Wilson was president, the 25th Amendment was not ratified yet. So Woodrow Wilson, not the healthiest guy, chain smoker. I don't think he was a drinker, but I think he did smoke a lot. And he really wore himself out after World War I. He tried to pass this League of Nations and was all for it, traveled around the country, was like so stressed out between World War I and then trying to pass the League of Nations. He had a stroke and was basically incapacitated, like could basically not function. And they didn't, I don't know if chiefs of staff or whatever, I don't know if it was just like so close to the election, and he was just serving out his term that they didn't have the vice president take over, and his wife took over. So like she was signing everything, like all shit went through her. So essentially kind of like a Dave-ish kind of thing. And this was something you could do in the so this was like 1917, I want to say. Like late 1910s. Because like there wasn't, the media kind of thing. There wasn't that kind of a presence. Like there wasn't, if the president is around now, you'd be like, oh shit, where is he? But they could do that then and just kind of tuck him away in the White House for a while. Now you're like, can't do that. But isn't that interesting? I've known that fact for a while, and go.
I did not know that one. I thought you were going to bring up the one that we already kind of talked about it, but I feel like Sweetie always likes to drop this trivia fact, which is that every president gets to like pick the president. They get to pick like all the artwork and sculptures, but in the Oval Office, they get to pick that like what presidential portrait is like in front of the desk or whatever. Yeah. So I looked it up, and pretty much every president has picked that same portrait of George Washington, which is the one in this movie. A few people have picked Lincoln something. The only president, they only have like the modern presidents on this, and JFK is the only one that didn't have any presidents. He just had ships.
Okay. Weird.
Which like, okay. And like the HMS bound like something as like the thing in his Oval Office, which is weird. Trump has like golf tournament trophies, and Obama had like added Martin Luther King stuff, which was really nice. And a copy, and he had a copy of the Emancipation, like a proclamation, like a replica of that in the Oval Office as well. So it's pretty cool that you can tailor it to your needs. And I feel like I've asked you this before, but like if you were the president, which presidential portrait would you put in your Oval Office, Sweetie?
Well, as everyone knows, my two favorite presidents are the Roosevelts, so Teddy or FDR. So I'd probably have both of them because they both, for me, like have good things about both of them, that you would want to embody for your own presidency. Mm-hmm. So I'd go straight up Roosevelt.
Oh, sorry. Trump also has the main portrait in the Oval Office is Andrew Jackson.
Oh God, he was the worst.
I know. I like read that and I was like, is that real?
Massacred many Native
I
Americans.
Should
Terrible.
Check it. That's strange. What an idiot. Yeah, that's a good one. I would probably not. I would do a Kennedy and forego that and just put my interests in the Oval Office. Be like, I'm just gonna put Doctor Who and
Big picture of your cat.
Desmond by the sea. You know what? Change it up, make it cool. I think that would be a fun game though. Like design your Oval Office. And,
Yeah.
you can pick the carpet and the curtains and it'd be cool.
Yeah.
So that's just my takeaway. But yeah, anything else we should discuss before we sign off?
No, but I hope. I always love the scene, the one Bonnie Hunt scene where she's the tour guide and she's like, "We're walking, and we're stopping."
I know.
The White
It's
House
so
gets
memorable.
a million
And it's only,
visitors every year. I know.
It's
I
like
just love her.
45 seconds long, and it's so great.
I know.
And it's fucking Bonnie Hunt.
I know, she's so amazing. But it makes me do I hope someday to make it and to get a tour of the White House. I've never done that. We've been to DC a couple times, and even prior to security stuff, I just feel like it. I think we almost tried to do it one time when we went there, but we just couldn't get tickets, or there wasn't.
Dad had to walk
slots.
7 blocks. Remember, there's
Yeah.
this whole. He walked 27 blocks to
Yep.
try to get us
Yep.
tickets at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
But there we couldn't get any or whatever. So yeah, we missed out. But we
I
did
mean-
get to go to a live House of Representatives.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we've been
That
to
was
the
pretty cool.
Capitol, and that is really cool. And maybe you obviously you can't see the president's living quarters on the tour. So is it really worth it just to see the public stuff? I don't know. I mean, as I've said, I think I've said this before. There used to be back in the day, literally anyone could wander into the White House and talk to the president. He had basically open hours like a professor has, and you can come and be like, I'm complaining about this. How crazy that does that seem now? And just the fucking wackiest thing. But I'd like to see it, someday. Bucket list for sure.
Someday. Now it'll be cool again to go back to the White House. So maybe who knows? Who knows? All right. Well, hope everybody got through election week okay. Please, do yourself a favor and watch Dave. It's really sweet and uplifting, and I think you like it. Although it does show that, there's an alarming amount of do whatever you want currently in the White House.
Corruption,
Which,
I think. Yeah.
Right. Which, again, if we watched this, if Trump had been reelected, I would have been so pissed because I would have been like, of course they'll let him do whatever he wants. And it was just very funny in that way. But luckily, Dave is a nice person and not a psychopath. So I would watch it. It's really cute. You can rent it. But yeah, come find us on Twitter at The Sweetie Club or on Instagram at Large Marge Sent Us. Thank you, as always, for listening. Bye.
Political rape artist.